We've done the driver's side, time to do the passenger side. One big difference, I've actually got proper repair panels this time, so that's going to make this job a lot quicker. The only issue, they're for plastic bumper cars, so I don't have the bit that goes behind the bumper. But that doesn't look too bad on this one, so I think we'll get away with it. First job, as with the other side, clean off all of the scabbiness and actually see what we're dealing with. This side isn't quite as bad as the driver's side, but you can see just recently it's actually started to fall off. So this isn't going to last me until the MOT, and I didn't really want to leave this past MOT anyway. The little bit of filler that's come off here, this seems fairly solid back here. It's just the filler that's failed, so I'm hoping there's a good repair in this section like there was on the other side, and it's just from about here that it's gone, because that's what these arches repair. It keeps raining, so this is proving to be a little bit awkward. I'm not going to be able to use much in the way of power tools. So let's see what we can do without them. When I took the bumper off, well, that's not very structural. Bugger. That's not so bad. There's still some structure behind that. Let's go and get the persuasion tool. Yeah, there's still a bit of an arch there. It's quite bad though. For this panel, replaces pretty much all of that, so I'll only need to worry about this bit at the end. And I have a solution for that too. This is the remnants of a Rover 200-400 R8 shape wheel arch repair panel, and it's very, very similar to the profile for the Maestro. It's certainly close enough for what I'm doing, so that should help build that curve for the outer. And for the inner, I've got some old Princess wing, which again, similar enough profile, I can massage it into what I need. And I think rain is stopping play. There's not a lot I can do when the weather's being like this. And I don't think it's going to be showing any signs of clearing up anytime soon. Oh well, find something else to do. It's the next day. The weather's not great, but hopefully it's going to stay dry long enough for me to just clean this up and see how we get on. Well, that's not too bad. Essentially, the rust you could see is all there was. I've just cleaned back to where the clean metal is on here. And in all honesty, I know it looks bad, but it's not as bad as I feared it would be. Essentially, where you could see the rust is where the rust was. There isn't any more hiding in there, so that's good. So I can cut this off now. There was a bit of filler in here, but having had a bit of a dig, I think this is just profiling. I'm not finding anything underneath there. So I think I'm probably going to leave that be for now. I can deal with it later if I need to. At the back there's been a repair here, where there's a little bit of filler and some of the paint had lifted. But mostly this is all quite good. The worst of it's here where it splashes up from the wheel. Yeah, not too terrible. So I'm going to cut back about halfway along the arch so I can get to the inner arch and see what we're dealing with there. The inside's slightly worse, but that's kind of to be expected. That's the side that gets all the dirt and everything thrown up against it. But unlike the other side, I'm actually going to weld from the outside rather than the inside. I think that's going to make my life easier on this repair. And I will have to jack the car up and get it on a stand so that I can deal with just that bit there. That's already been repaired once before, and it looks like it's gone outside the edge of the repair. Still, not too daunting. Just going to try and clean up as much of the rust as I can, and I can feel the weather's changing, so I think this is probably as much as I'll get done today. That really is where I'm going to have to leave it for now. I can feel the rain's coming and I don't want to risk being out here with power tools. I do have to be a bit careful with just this section here. There's some wiring, so I haven't cut that back quite as far as I'd like. There you go, you can just see a bit of wiring peeking through there. I thought I'd moved it all out of the way in the boot, but that one must have moved back into place. The inner arch on this side isn't actually anywhere near as bad. There's a bit there to investigate and a bit down here to investigate. This is when I was doing the leak hunting, so I'll clean those back and see if there's any welding needed. And then, as on the other side, a bit on the seams failed there, and it's a bit crusty down here. It's had repairs here before, so I may end up chopping this piece off and putting a new one in, just so that I know it's all clean in one layer. The rest of the inner arch is actually pretty good, so that's a bit of a relief. It gets a little bit crusty as you get down here, and again you can see there's been a big patch just put in there where it's gone through in the past, so this shouldn't be as bad as the other side to do, especially because I've got the proper panels. So what I think I'll do is do these that I don't have a dedicated panel for, investigate these bits and get all the awkward stuff done. Then I can offer up the new panel, trim it and weld it on the inner arch. And once I know I've got the inner arch in place and done, I can then do the outer arch. And this side should need a lot less filler and a lot less time. We'll see how we go. The amount of rubbish that's come off is bad, but it's not as bad as the other side. So that's good. I'm figuring out how best to chop out what I need on this panel, and it's a case of figuring out the best way to line everything up. Okay, I've got the inner arch piece just wedged in here at the moment. The outer panel is just very roughly cut. The issue I'm having with these repair panels is, predictably, the profile in the middle of the arch isn't quite the same as what's on the car. Now, I know these are for a Montego, but the Montego and Maestro rear arches are the same. These are, I mean, this one says it's Clockerholm, but these are actually Hadrian pressings. There's Magnum there as well. As far as I'm aware, these are old Hadrian panels, so they're not the best, but it's all there is, so you kind of have to work with it. So what I've done so far is I've just chopped the actual arch flare free of this piece, because that's all I need. I don't need any of this section. And for the inner arch, I don't need any of the alignment points, such as the body trim and the sill section, because on the inner arch it's different. So I've wedged this in place as close to the right spot as I can get it. I've got the end where there would normally be the bit for the sill here, and I've got that lined up there, and then at this end this arch is trimmed off, but that's where that body line would be, so I know that we're in the right sort of area. I also know the inner arch is a slightly different profile than the outer arch, which is why I'm doing it this way. Inside the wheel arch you can see I'm going to have to do some fabrication here because the panel doesn't line up, and of course patch there. But I've got it overlapped, and I'm going to get a pen, mark where the original arch stops on the cutout, mark it onto the outer arch. I can then trim this down better and tack it in place where it needs to be. Then filling in these sections will be a lot easier because I'll have some reference points. I'm making it up as I go along a bit because there are no instructions for a job like this. But it can't be any harder than the other side, where I basically needed to fabricate the whole arch from the wrong panels. Didn't get quite as far as I would have liked before the battery died on the grinder, so I'll have to put that on charge. Neither was something I'd forgotten. I cut most of this panel off, but this is just a very rough first cut. I need to clean all the edges up. It's close enough. You can see just here where I need to massage the shape down a little bit, but in all the other places it's pretty much as I need it to be. This section shouldn't be too hard to fabricate. It's just a bend with a bit of curve, so I think I can do that with basic tools, which is good because that's all I've got. Fiddly. But once that's in, we've then got the outer, and I can figure out how much of the original bodywork to actually chop off. I think I'm probably going to leave it about where it is. Take a little bit more at the sill end where I know there's some issue, but just take this curve back, and like I did on the other side, I'll weld right where the curve is because it's easier to blend in at that point than like midway on this section or midway on the flare. So yeah, we'll just have to see how it goes. I'm going to put a battery on charge. Found myself a bit more work to do. It was a bit soft around here, quite a bit of filler, so took the angle grinder to it, and this is just full of junk. So I'll get all this cleaned out and cut back, some fresh steel put in. This really has gone quicker than the other side, which is nice. The other nice thing is the quality of these welds is much better. Again, I'm not a professional, I'm just an amateur, but they'll do for me. I'm probably going to have to, because of access, chop this section out and weld it back on, because I can't get in here where I need to. Not the end of the world, just a bit more chopping than I was really expecting. And I'll definitely need to do something about this area at the bottom of the sill. Now, the piece I'm building here, because of course this repair panel stops short, this is the section of Rover R8 200/400 wheel arch. This is the section of Rover wheel arch that I have spare, and it's not a perfect match on the profile, but it's close enough. I can get rid of all the minor discrepancies with filler, obviously. So I'm just working out at the moment what I need to trim off, what I need to keep, so I can just put this section in, and then the inner arch is almost completely done, at least the lip of it. It's just a bit of a faff. I think I might call it quits for today. I've already dealt with one bird's nest in here when the wire got tangled up somehow. I have no idea what this has just done. There was a noise of all the wire losing tension, and it's burned through the wire here. No idea how or why. I do not want to deal with this right now. I've started tacking this piece in, it's going okay, but honestly I'm having one of those days where I'm not really in the mood to do this, and you do have to be in the mood to do this sort of work. I'll come back to it another day. It's getting late anyway, I'm starting to lose the light now, so probably sensible to pack up and try and figure out what on earth has gone on in there. Let's have a look at what's gone wrong with this. When I was welding last time, this is the end of the wire, and you can see it's got very hot, and it's actually melted through here, and this is the other end. Now, normally that wire's not threaded through there, it just comes straight up here. The only reason I've threaded it through there is just to stop it unraveling. Now, the other end of this wire, the wire roller, so this bit usually comes down here, that holds your wire in place and pulls it through the torch. At this end, the wire had also melted and snapped, so it fed through the I've lost the word. It fed through to the torch where the trigger is, no problem. It didn't seem to have earthed out at the torch tip, so I'm not sure what's caused the problem. Some discussion online suggests that there is an earthing problem somewhere, which, yeah, I'd agree with that. But nothing concrete, so that's one screwdriver. Let's investigate. I'm not really sure how any of this comes together or goes to pot, so I'm just guessing. I'm hoping I can pop this off and get to what's gone wrong. Ah, there we go. Right. Now, I wasn't sure on this piece whether this was metal or plastic, and this seems to be plastic. Oh, I can probably fix that. So this bit of guide tube goes in here, and you can see as this wire's got hot, it's basically melted and cut through this guide. So it looks like all I really need to do is replace this section here. So as long as I can find some tubing of some sort of the right type, I can drop that in. That should fix that bit. I am going to replace the torch anyway on this. Reason being, it's seen better days. This is not a new welder to me. This is, you know, I've had this a while. The person before me had this a while. So it's had a few repairs. But it's got, you know, new shroud, new tip, new wire, new earth clamp. Things like this are just a bit of an oddity. But I feel a bit more comfortable that I can repair that now, so that's good. I'll pop this back on without the tube, and I can have a look online or similar, see if I can find a tube. But at least it means I know it can't have shorted out in here, because there's nothing for the metal to contact, so it must have shorted out in the torch. Torch is a universal, I believe, so that should fix the problem. And for those who are curious, this is what welder it is. It's a MiG 175 TE Turbo, and it does make sense me spending the money to replace this, because that's a lot cheaper than replacing the whole welder, and the welder otherwise works really nicely. This is the first real problem it's given me. So I think these are about £80, a new welder's several hundred. I've just removed the electrical tape off the outside of the handle. This was just holding everything together. Now I knew that this handle was broken. It happens when tools get old, and I think it was run over or something. I forget what the story was, but yeah, it's been taped together for ages. It's not been a problem, so I thought I'll pop it open, see if there's any obvious problems, and honestly I don't really see any. There's no obvious signs of scorching or anything like that. So arguably I could just replace the casing section, but I don't think it would hurt to put a new torch on here anyway, and a new cable. There could be some damage inside this section that the wire runs through. That might be what's caused the problem. I don't know. I'll just get a new part, it'll be easier. I've got all my parts together for this, and my next job is to give everything a bit of a clean. I might as well, while I've got everything in bits. You can see it's just years of dust and just general rubbish that's got in here, so I'm going to give it a vacuum, just tidy it up, and then I'll show you how I'm going to install this new kit. There's only so much you can do. Some of the surfaces are a bit faded and rusty, but on the whole it's a lot tidier. A lot of the dust is gone now. What's more annoying is just as I've started this, it started raining. It's the story of my life when I'm trying to get anything done. It just keeps raining. Oh well.